Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today, instead of a quick tutorial style demonstration, this is a video of one of my commissioned paintings based on this photograph of some driftwood on a Scottish beach. The finished watercolour took a couple of hours, including drying time between washes, so I've sped this video up quite a lot. I started by carefully sketching the image on a sheet of Saunders Waterford 300-gram rough paper, and I then used a little masking fluid for a few patches on the larger branches of the driftwood. I started with a watery mix of sap green and a touch of Van Dyke brown to paint an initial wash on the larger branches of the driftwood. I did this so that they were established before I painted the wash for the beach over them. It's always a good idea to plan ahead and decide the order in which you're going to paint the different parts of your painting. Now this way you can allow one wash to dry whilst you work on another area of your painting. So whilst this first wash for the driftwood was drying, I was able to work on the sky. And for this I mixed up a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna for the bluish grey clouds. I painted them wet on dry paper, just adding more pigment here and there and to darken some areas. And I added a little bit of cobalt blue just to suggest a hint of some blue sky behind the clouds. My aim with the sky was to try to replicate the sky in the photograph, which was a sort of a brooding, heavy sky, but without slavishly copying it. Just lifted out some of the colour with a clean damp brush. Just added a little bit more pigment here and there, just to create a bit of variety of colour in the sky. And then with a clean paper towel, just lifted out a few areas just to soften the edges a little bit more, create some fluffy cloud effect. For the beach, I used a fairly light mix of raw sienna, adding more pigment towards the foreground to create the feeling of depth in the painting. As you can see, I'm going over the initial wash for those main branches of the driftwood, but they do give me a roadmap as to where I should have the darkest part of the sand to bring the foreground of the painting forward. Just adding more pigment here and there just to strengthen it. And while the wash is still wet, just adding a line at the water's edge where with the sky mix, just to indicate some damp sand where it meets the water. At this point, I allowed everything to dry fully. Then I added some more ultramarine to the sky mix, just to make it a little bit bluer for the distant sea. For the sandbank in the middle distance, I used a slightly stronger mix of raw sienna for a slightly darker colour, and left a gap between the sandbank and the sea for some white waves, and the same on the beach side with some strip of water just lapping, just using the white of the paper for that. While that wash was still wet, I just added some of the sea colour just to adjust the colour. Wasn't quite happy with it. Finally, just darkening the edge of the sand where it's wet sand, just to make it stand out a little bit more from the white of the paper for the lapping waves. Once again, I let everything dry fully. And then for the distant mountains, I mixed some Van Dyke Brown into the mix that I already made for the sea, just to grey it a little bit more. And just painted the mountains, just dropping more pigment here and there, just to give it a bit of variety. This will dry a little bit lighter, and just lifting out at the right hand edge of those mountains, just to suggest where the clouds just clipping the top of the mountains. Now I'm working on the driftwood, just darkening the main branches, adding more pigment here and there, just for a bit of variety of tonal value. Again, this is the sap green mix with a little bit more Van Dyke Brown added to it, just to strengthen it. Slightly more pigment, less water. Just building up the darkness of the driftwood slowly, concentrating on the main branches to start with. I'll switch to a smaller brush now to start painting some of the smaller branches of the driftwood. Again, I'm not slavishly copying the photograph. I have to a degree with the main structure of the driftwood, but for these smaller branches, I'm just using the photograph as a guide as to where the smaller branches would be, and then just using a little bit of artistic license, really. I've just switched to a rigger now for the really small branches and some of the detail. I'm just adding a little bit of extra colour here and there to some of the medium-sized branches, shall we say. This this part of the painting took quite a long time, and it's quite a laborious thing to watch. So I've sped this up quite a bit for the next section. I just took my time with this part, just making sure that didn't overdo it. It's very easy to do too much at this stage. Again, just using the reference photograph just to make sure that I don't get it too far from the original painting. Okay, now I'm working. I've taken off the masking fluid, and I'm now working on the areas that are masked out, just to indicate a little bit of a few patches where the bark has been stripped off by the sea. Starting with some yellow ochre, adding a little bit of the raw sienna, maybe a few patches of burnt sienna as well, just to create some variety. Once you start adding all these darkest darks in the foreground, the painting really starts to come alive. At this point, I've nearly finished the painting, and looking at it, I think I'm going to make a few minor changes. One thing that strikes me is the sandbank is a little bit too strong. So once the painting's dry, I will probably lighten that by lifting out. And the same with the right-hand branch. There's a sort of a horizontal branch which I think I've overdone, and I'll probably alter that. But I'm just going to let it dry and then come back and make some alterations, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, I've made those changes that I mentioned. I just wet the sandbank with some clean water and lifted out with some paper towel. And I'm just putting a mount on just to see how it looks, and I'm reasonably pleased with the outcome. I may make a few more changes before I really finish with it, but this is more or less the finished painting. So as I say, I'm reasonably pleased with it. Got a nice strong foreground, bringing the eye forward, and then in the background you've got the mountains and the clouds, just clipping the edge of the mountains. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you found this video useful. It's not my usual demonstration where I concentrate on a particular aspect of watercolours, but hopefully I demonstrated a few things in this video, lifting out, etc. If you did find it useful, do give it a like. It really helps with spreading the word on YouTube. If you're not a subscriber, do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. And once more, thanks for watching.